We're coming back from the weekend on Locked On Utah Hockey Club. Now to finally get to talk a little bit about the 2034 Winter Olympics coming to Salt Lake City, as well as get to a little bit back to some Hockey 101, get to some odd man situation talk, get you guys up to date so you guys know can be super hockey fans by the time the season starts. We'll get to all that right after this.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your number one daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club. I'm your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Tom Callahan. We want to thank Evan for making this show your first listen every single day. We are free and available everywhere you get your shows. We got a good episode on today, Tom, because we're going to get to a little bit of Olympic talk. The Summer Olympics are underway in Paris right now. The Winter Olympic announcement was just made on a 2034 bid, and Salt Lake City has secured that bid once again. Getting their first time to host the Winter Olympics since 2002. So not too far distant from in the past. It was actually fairly recent in a lot of people's memories. But now it's coming back, and I think a lot of people are more excited now, Tom, especially now that Salt Lake City has its own professional hockey team.
Yeah, I think the timing of talking about all this Olympic stuff going on with the hype of Paris going on and now heading into, for Salt Lake, the Winter Olympics, and of course the surrounding areas, it's a pretty cool event. They've hosted before. Of course, in 2002, it was an epic hockey showdown. I'm sure a lot of hockey fans remember that. And boy, it'd be fun to see something like that happen again. And who knows what stars of the game will be playing then, but it'll be here before you know it. And one of the nice things about it is, number one, they've done it already. So there's a good base in place. And I'm sure a lot of lessons learned, both good and bad, what to do and what not to do. But the other thing is the Delta Center is going to be renovated by the time this comes around. And so the thing to consider, and I don't know if you know this or not, hockey fans, International Olympic ice is 200 feet long by 100 feet wide. Whereas traditionally NHL ice is 200 by 85. So it's going to be a little bit different look and feel. But honestly, I mean, the North American players might be a little less used to the bigger sheet, but a lot of the European players, that's what they skate on all the time anyway. So, but it's just best on best. It's the most fun. Olympic hockey is awesome. I wish there was an Olympic tournament every single year because something epic always happens.
I think in general, I just always love watching international hockey because it really is the best, and you're getting, these teams are getting a chance to represent their own countries and getting a lot of that, in many years past, there were the years where NHLers weren't allowed to be at the Olympics. We just recently passed a period where that just happened. But before that, I think in the early 2000s, you were able to put together those kind of teams, pseudo like dream teams for each country. US versus Canada was always a really fun matchup. US, Canada, and Russia, really, those three teams just dominated the international scene. Kind of curious, we'll see what it will look like by 2034, Tom. I think it will be a whole different scene. Again, we're talking 10 years from now. So a lot of the players we're seeing now it could be a very different kind of aspect. Plus, again, as we mentioned, the whole situation going around Russia probably will be very different. Who knows if they'll be able to be returning back to international play. You would hope by then things will kind of be, died down. But again, I don't know. It's not my job to pay attention to what's going on over there.
I'd love to see the odds on if Yager's going to play 10 years from now. But okay, a couple things I want to get to. Number one, for all of you roasting and flaming me right now, I know about the World Championships. They're not the same as the Olympics.
No,
so when I said I wish there was Olympics every year, the World Championships matter far more to European teams than they do. Same thing with the Spangler Cup. It matters far more to the European teams than it does to North American teams. I hate to say that, but it's true. And not that it's not important, but I mean, if you're finishing up and you're still in Stanley Cup playoffs, it's not best on best. The NHL pauses for the Olympics. Even the Four Nations tournament that's coming up this fall is going to be good, but it doesn't have everybody.
Yeah, it's just
it doesn't have the potential for Germany to come out of nowhere and pull an upset like they occasionally do. Fun things like that. And that's why I think I appreciate the spirit of the Olympic competition so much. We can argue all day over pros versus, amateurs and all that fun stuff, but I enjoy it. It's great hockey. I look forward to all the events. Plus, I love bobsled. I love luge. I love all that crazy stuff. It's a lot of fun.
You know what's interesting is like I had somebody ask me this question when every time we get close to the Olympics starting, do you prefer the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics? And I'm like, I love the Summer Olympics. Don't get me wrong. I feel like it's got a lot of great hype and it's the bigger event. But I love the Winter Olympics.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely a winter guy. Yeah. Curling. I mean, even biathlon. I love watching biathlon. These people are cruising for miles on skis, and then you got to lay down, hold your breath, and shoot with a rifle. Well,
what about speed skating?
Oh, short track is even wilder. I love speed skating. I think that's great, but the short track is insane. Like it's almost like short track NASCAR. There's always going to be a wreck. People are running into one another. Just it's every event is awesome. Every event you got to watch. There's drama in the figure skating. There's drama in the hockey, but then you learn what the drama is in the bobsled and the skeleton and the luge and the ski jumping and the downhill. And it's awesome. I love the Winter Olympics. I'm already fired up. It's 10 years away. I'm already fired up for the Winter Olympics.
Fired up. Like one thing's for sure is I know where I'm going to be in the winter of 2034. I hope to be over there and have some and enjoy it.
Well, all right, let me ask you this. I'm taking hockey off the table. I give you tickets to any event except hockey because I know that's your default answer. Any event but hockey. What event are you wanting those tickets for? Winter Olympics.
In the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Oh God. That's a tough one. Even though I wouldn't I'm not huge on protecting the sport myself, but I tend to be really mesmerized by those Olympic skiers, like the ski jumpers. Something about them, they know exactly they know what they're into, and those get intense. I would love to see a ski jump event.
It's that's not a bad choice. I've actually I played a hockey tournament way back when I was in high school at Lake Placid, New York, and got to watch ski jump training. Even that looked crazy. And it was unbelievable to watch everybody that was up there just flying down this giant ramp. Okay, that's a good one. That is a good one. I think that would be awesome. And I think about the Super G. The one that I think would be the coolest would be bobsled, but it's kind of like watching a race on a road course. You only get to see one or two turns. You know what I mean? You don't get to see the whole thing. I almost feel like it's a little better to be at home for that. So I think if I'm picking my event, where all the drama happens, the passion, the intrigue, all that, I am going with the pairs ice skating, the figure skating, pairs finals. I want to see the finals. That's what I would like to see because I feel like that's just got everything in it.
The routines in those are amazing. Like it takes a lot of effort putting the routine for those pairs, and I've seen some of them, and they're beautiful.
And I always wonder to myself, who's going to be the next Chas Michaels? I don't know if anybody's going to get that one, but if you do get that joke, thank you. I appreciate you being here.
One of the things that you mentioned too, and I think kind of one thing that I do want to bring up is you said by then Delta Center will be renovated. I think that's kind of the thing that should be talked about. Is I think that's kind of one of the major arguments for getting this arena renovation now. Get it done they wanted the arena itself done by 2027, and I think they said they want the entire thing done by like 2030, 2031 or something like that. the entire project. And I think that's going to be now that the bid is official, it is officially awarded to Salt Lake. When this whole thing goes on over to goes to the state, and then finalizing all the details on getting this renovation plan done, I feel like it's almost a no-brainer. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the momentum is there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's got that feeling of inevitability about it. So I'd be pretty shocked at this point, and I think a lot of people would be if it didn't happen. So yeah, you're probably right. And of course, you get the Winter Olympics as if you needed another excuse. I think you have everything you need to have. And here's the other thing people forget is that when the Olympics come to town, it does require new buildings to go up. And yes, there could be a lot of infrastructure from before, but you still need to have an Olympic Village. You still need to have the housing and the transportation and everything that goes on with it. And plus, it's a huge economic boon to your city and the surrounding area. That's a big deal. So as long as they properly prepare for it, and again, like I say, having done this once already, I think they probably learned a lot of valuable lessons of what works and what doesn't work, and they're going to be able to do a much better job even this time around. I'm not saying that it was bad last time, but I am saying it'll be better, that much better this time.
Oh, certainly. Like, I think those are some of the things that you always had to consider and take a look at all that. And I'm excited to see exactly how they, how they pull it off and how it's going to look. Like you said, 10 years from now, it feels like I just, even though it's that far away, I could still be as excited as I am right now for it.
Oh yeah, I get pumped just thinking about it. And maybe it's because today was the first day I actually sat down and watched a little bit of the Olympics because I hadn't so far. I've just been busy with all the other stuff I've got going on. But all right, maybe it's running through my brain a little right now. So I'm pumped. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Bring a little bit of that country pride in you.
So that and just I enjoy the drama of sports, and I'm not a reality TV guy. I'm not a true crime guy. Like, I'm not into that stuff, but just I enjoy the stories of the athletes. I like hearing their background. I like hearing what they've gone through and what they had to battle to get to the world's biggest stage.
100%.
And I think those stories are fascinating. I love hearing people's stories.
Yeah, it's an inspirational. It's like, man, I love that. I love when you hear these inspirational stories where they're coming from. It really is. That's one of the things that makes the Olympics awesome, especially if that person wins a gold medal, and like that's what makes it all the more awesome. Yes. But once again, the 2034 Winter Olympics coming to Salt Lake City. We'll see how everything looks like by then for the Utah Hockey Club, or whatever name they will be. Quote, probably Yeti, as we've been teasing for a while.
Yeah, I feel like that's where they're going. But anyway.
Anyways, we're going to keep going on this episode. We're going to get back to some Hockey 101. We didn't get to one last week, but we'll get right back into it now. We're going to talk some odd man situations. We'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's keep things going on this episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. Robyn Leano and Tom Callahan. Let's get back into some Hockey 101, Tom, as we are helping a lot of these fans. We're hoping that there are a lot of new hockey fans tuning in. And if you are a new hockey fan tuning in, we welcome you. And we are hoping to help you guys become super hockey fans by the time the season starts. So you guys are super ready, jazzed up, and pumped for your Utah Hockey Club to start their season in this fall of 2024. We're talking odd man situations, Tom, and this is an idea that you brought to me, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take the lead on this one as we discuss something that I think a lot of people probably want to know.
Yeah, and I've seen some people kind of slag our hockey 101, saying, well, do you not think the fans are intelligent, or do you think they not know the game? No, there's plenty of fans who know the game, but there's also plenty of folks with a curiosity factor who probably have never watched hockey in their lives, who are kind of coming over to the game right now and want to know how it works. So guess what? I'm going to teach the basics, and I'm also going to teach the advanced stuff. And Robyn, you're going to teach the basics, and you're also going to teach the advanced stuff. Why? Because we can. There's nuance here. So I do want to start with the easy stuff, right? First of all, 5 skaters on each side. You take one penalty. There are 3 different kinds of penalties. Well, there's more than that, but for the easy part, there's a minor.
The basic thing is
right. So you got a minor, 2 minutes, double minor, 4 minutes, major penalty, 5 minutes. The difference, a minor penalty, if the team scores on the power play, the team with the man advantage, the penalty ends. Double minor, if the team scores in the first 2 minutes, you reset the penalty clock to the next 2 minutes and count down from there. And it works like a minor penalty. Major penalty, you can score as many power play goals as you want. That guy's not getting out of the box.
That was my favorite one.
Yes. So that's your impetus not to take a major. And we'll get into later on here in August as to what all the penalties are and what they can draw and all that stuff. We'll give you the signals. But for now, just know about 2, 4, and 5 is where we're going to start. I'm not going to talk about misconducts or anything. Not right now. No. The important thing to know is this. When your team takes a penalty, you're down 5-on-4. If your team takes another penalty, you're down 5-on-3. Now, way back 100 years ago in the NHL, Robyn, I don't know if you even knew this, if you took penalties, they kept taking guys until you were down to 1 player left on the ice and a goalie. So they stopped that somewhere along the way. So the fewest skaters you can have on the ice now defensively is 3. So if you're down 5-on-3 and you take another penalty, so let's just make some nice round numbers here for the sake of the example. Let's say the first penalty has 1 minute left in it. The second penalty happened 30 seconds later, so there's 1 minute and 30 seconds left in that penalty. This third penalty, which is also a 2-minute minor, the player goes into the box. That 2-minute clock does not start ticking until that first player's penalty expires. So that means he's really in the box for 3 minutes. So the 1 minute has to expire on that first power play, which will mean there's now 30 seconds left in the second minor. And now the 2-minute clock begins ticking on the third minor. So if you have to rewind that and play it again, or even write it down for yourself, but that is when you start backing up the minors, since you can't have less than 3 people on the ice, they just bump the penalty time back. So that's important to cover. Robyn, I don't know if you want to talk about coincidentals, because there are times you see 2 guys sitting in the box, they're in there, and we play 5-on-5, but 2 guys took roughing penalties, are sitting in the box, and you think, oh, after 2 minutes, well, they're still sitting in the box. Let's explain why.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of the things that interests me, Tom, when talking about that. And one of the things that I kind of tend to point to is when it goes like that, most of the time, doesn't happen all the time. Most of the time when it goes that way, usually after the 2 minutes are over, you still wait until a stoppage in the game in the ice actually happens before those 2 players exit the box back on the ice or to the bench to get fresh pair of skates on.
Because we would not have 6-on-6 skaters plus a goalie on either side. The ice would get packed up real quick. So you have to wait for a stoppage and play for those players to come back out on the ice. Now, If the referees decide there's one hooking, one slashing on the play, then you stick a guy in each box. They'll put 2 minutes up on the clock for both of them, count it down, but now they're playing 4-on-4.
Yep.
So when the 2 minutes expires, those players can come out of the box because they've served their 2 minutes, and now both teams are at what's considered full strength, 5 skaters and a goalie.
Yeah, gotta love that. And even especially too, if it happens again, it's a rare 3-on-3.
Yes, 3-on-3. Yeah, you can go as low as 3-on-3, which is, I mean, we have that in overtime, the 5-minute OT. Robyn, I'm the goalie. We know this. If you look over my shoulder, you see the mask sitting there. You're clearly the forward. So what happens if I slash somebody in the crease and I actually get called for it? What happens?
So if you as a goalie get called for a slash, the ref will call it on you. However, a skater on your team will take that penalty and sit in for you. So it really is up to that team at that point, like who decides to go to that bench. But at that point, yeah, you can't bench yourself. I mean, you can't bench the goalie. They got to bench a skater.
That's right. And so they pick somebody from the 5 guys on the ice, or 4, or
Right.
however many are out there at the time. And that forward or defenseman has to serve the penalty for the goaltender.
It was funny because like I said, every now and then when we do these episodes, I love to give out actual stories of, from my time playing on the ice. I was out and I know she's listening. She listens to this podcast. She's a goalie. And she tripped me because her stick was out on the ice. I went over that stick and fell and fell. Immediately heard right behind me the whistle. They said tripping, forgot her number on this color, and sent immediately after that. They sent a player over to the box. Of course, wasn't her. It was one of the other players, and I was like, that's why you don't just lay your stick flat out like that. It was good, but again, perfect example of that exactly happening.
So this is where it gets interesting too. We've covered kind of our basics there, and major penalties. If guys get into a fight and they call it fighting, it is a 5-minute major. So generally, they sit there 5 minutes on their own, and you can count off penalty time in accordance with what I've just laid out, basically for an entire hockey game. Then we go to overtime, and it's 3-on-3. So now I already told you, Robyn, you can't have less than 3 players on the ice, 3 skaters on the ice. Well, let's say I trip somebody in the overtime. Now what happens?
What happens in this case is
NHL overtime specifically.
NHL overtime. The team that committed it will still be at 3 skaters. The team that got it committed on, they'll actually be able to add a skater. They'll get to 4-on-3.
And so when that player comes out, it is now 4-on-4. You will play 4-on-4 until the next whistle, and then go back to 3-on-3. I've actually seen 5-on-3 go back to 5-on-5 in overtime, from 3-on-3 overtime, and it's pretty remarkable. All of a sudden, you're back to a normal hockey game, but it can happen. And then at the whistle, as soon as it's a whistle, even strength, you go back to your 3-on-3.
It does amaze me. I want to mention this quick too. On that overtime when it going, how long has it been since we went to 3-on-3? I know we had 4-on-4 for a decent amount of time.
It's
been a decade.
I think, didn't we go to 3-on-3 either coming out of the lockout or sometime around, I want to say 2007,
right.
2008?
It was coming out of the lockout. No, I wasn't then. It was coming out of the second lockout in the early 2010s.
04, 05. Was it?
The early 2010s, because I remember I went to a game in 2011, and it was a game between, I think it was the San Jose Sharks and the Vancouver Canucks, and it went to overtime. And the rules that were explained to me at the time was a 10-minute 4-on-4 overtime period.
So I'm looking, let's see where just I'm looking up to see NHL OT has always been 5 minutes. It's always been a 5-minute overtime, and it used to be in the NHL. Here's the other thing: before they put the shootout in, a game could end in a tie. So that's
right.
always fun. But so when I was a kid, there were only 3 columns. It was win, loss, tie. And of course, nobody really liked it. But so NHL regular season games, yeah, since 05-06. So it was coming out of the 04-05 lockout that they went to the 3-on-3 with the overtime. And so that's kind of interesting. They then added the shootout to get a winner in there as well. So that's back to the penalty question. How it works is it keeps adding. But and I actually really like the 3-on-3. I love it. I think it's wild. It's so much fun.
Because it gives you a lot more open ice. We talks about the smaller rink of the North American game and seeing the 3-on-3. There's so much room on the ice. What I want to do, Tom, really quick is we're gonna go wrap up our thoughts, but we do have to get in it. Get a quick word from our sponsors on today's show. So let's wrap things up, talking some odd man situations, Tom. So far, I think that we touched on most of it, unless there was anything we missed on.
The one thing that I do want to mention, we're talking about the 2, 4, and 5-minute penalties. There are other situations that can affect the remainder of the game, such as if a player gets a 10-minute misconduct, okay? Let's say they get a 2-minute penalty and a 10-minute misconduct. They must sit 12 minutes. So what will happen is someone will serve their 2-minute penalty for them. So if Robyn takes the penalty 2 and 10, I go in. I'm not a goalie anymore. I'm a player. I go in. I sit the 2 minutes, and it's 5-on-4 for the 2 minutes. And then when the 2 minutes counts down, I'm out of the box. Robyn has to finish serving a 10-minute misconduct now. That can carry over between periods. It can carry over into overtime. So that's important to know. Same thing with a game misconduct. Sometimes you'll see a player get a 5 in a game. Then you have to have someone else serve the 5-minute major, and that player is ejected for the rest of the game. So Robyn takes the 5, high sticking, whatever, and a game out. I have to go sit the 5. So my team is shorthanded for the major power play and no more Robyn. So that is also important to know when you see blank and a 10, blank and a game misconduct handed out. So that does affect it.
Now, here's something that I do want to ask you so people can mention. We don't see this as often anymore, thankfully, but something that does happen when you see a 5 and a match penalty. The difference between a game misconduct and a match penalty, Tom.
Match penalty. So game misconduct, if I give someone a 5 in a game, that means they're gone for the rest of that game. A match penalty indicates intent to injure and automatically carries a 1-game suspension and a pending review. So a match penalty is even worse. The referee says, you know what? This player went into the corner, meant to elbow the other player in the face or high stick them in the teeth or whatever it was, spearing. There's a million things you can get a 5-minute major for. Whatever it was, if you're assessed a match penalty, that is, you're out for the rest of the game we're playing. You are automatically gone for the next one, and there's a review to see if further suspension is warranted. And that can be on ice stuff. It can be on off ice stuff. We've seen it for also gestures and epithets, things of that nature. But the match is the most serious thing a referee can, in the course of a game, hand out. So generally, you will see 5 plus a match, and that player is gone for that game plus a game, and there'll be a review by the league.
And like I said, thankfully, those aren't, we don't see those as much anymore because we don't have those kind of players on the ice anymore. I think ever since I mean, do they still happen? Yeah, it's a rare thing, but it's so like what the Tom Wilson, Rafi Torres era.
Right.
That like those two players, they were like brutal, and they were known for going out and injuring people.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And there's always been players across the line. I mean, just do a quick Google search, you'll find a lot of players who either play on the edge, play over the edge, and they get their reputation for it. And that's where, Robyn, when we get to talking about suspensions and repeat offenders, that can build up and matter quite a bit, because all of a sudden you find yourself sitting longer and longer.
Yeah, you've seen what, upwards of almost half a season suspension, if I'm not mistaken, like a 41 game, 42 game suspension. We've seen that happen based off a player who gets a match penalty. It's like, well, you got to review it. Oh yeah, you know what? This is not your first time talking to us this season, so yeah, we're gonna suspend you.
Generally, the way it goes is it tends to double, or it will be plus 50%. So 1 to 2, 2 to 4 sometimes, but it might go 2 to 3. And of course, it depends on the nature of the penalty. And if you're going to get suspended for more than a couple of games, they give you the option of an in-person hearing. If they're handing out 1 or 2 games, they're not going to do an in-person hearing. They'll probably do a Zoom. In today's day and age, it's not really a phone call anymore. If it came to the Zoom meeting, you're liable to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games at that point. So otherwise, I mean, if you're just getting a game or 2, there's no meeting with the league. But if you hear a player's getting a meeting for supplementary discipline, that means a longer suspension could, not will, could happen.
Yeah. I know a lot of people will have their opinions on the Department of Player Safety, but that's a discussion for a whole nother time, though.
Yes.
But one thing is, as we're getting close to being out of time on this show, Tom, that I want to ask about, and this is, in my mind, that I think the final aspect of I think there's definitely more, but that we could mention. I feel like I want to mention on odd man situations, and specifically when you see a 6th skater on the ice.
So this is actually something that we could talk about as well. Robyn, when you pull the goaltender and you're going with the extra attacker, so you have 6 skaters, no goalie. You always have to have 6 in one form or fashion, either 5 goalies or 1 goalie and 5 skaters. Holy cow, 5 goalies. Woo! Totally new game. 1 goalie and 5 skaters, or 6 skaters. Number 1, you can't change back to the goaltender on the fly. Got to wait for a whistle.
Yep.
Number 2, through the lens of penalties, if you pull a player down on a breakaway, or you throw your stick to block a shot at an empty net, or do something else that is a penalty to prevent a goal, instead of the referee awarding a 2-minute penalty, they can just award the goal for the empty net.
Yeah.
So that's important to point out too, is when the net is empty and you commit a foul that would have prevented that goal from being scored, the referee can say, you know what, the shot would have went in anyway. I'm not going to call a penalty. I'm just going to award the goal to the player that was fouled.
Because it would have been an obvious goal had the momentum of that shot continued.
Yes. And there's one other thing we haven't talked about yet, Robyn. The penalty shot.
Oh, the penalty shot.
You ever had a penalty shot?
I've never taken a penalty shot in game. I've gotten to the shootout, but I never got into a penalty shot in game.
I'm on the other side of it. So anytime there was one called against my team, guess what? Yes, I was there for it. So yes, I've ended up facing quite a few. But so let's go kind of in the same vein, is if you take down a player who is adjudged to be in the clear and is ahead of you on a breakaway, and you pull them down, or you prevent them from getting a shot off, whatever you do, but they were clear of you and you maybe dive and trip them from behind or whatever, and you don't get the puck. If you get the puck first, all's fair in love and war. If you happen to dive and you sweep that puck away and then
Yeah,
your
between
stick
their
comes
legs.
around, you take the feet out, whatever. But that's fine. You got the puck. So if a penalty shot is awarded, the player, and it's usually the person who was fouled, unless something happens where they're injured or whatever, they will take the puck from center ice. It is one-on-one with the goaltender, and they will break in on goal alone and have a chance to score. Now, the interesting thing about the penalty shot is when a penalty shot is awarded, there is no penalty that goes along after it. So if it would have been a 2-minute minor for tripping, there is no 2-minute minor for tripping. The penalty shot takes the place of the minor penalty for tripping. So and it's interesting, Robin. I remember, let's say 15 years ago, the NHL really talked to the referees about trying to call more penalty shots. And instead of just always tripping, because I think a lot of referees were afraid to affect the game in that way. But the league said, you know what? Let's tighten up what we're calling for a penalty shot here and put it in focus, but let's actually call it. And I think we have seen an increase in penalty shots. They're still pretty rare, but I do think we see them more now than we ever did.
Yeah, because I feel like the boundaries, like the lines are really well defined on what exactly creates one. I think you pretty much explained it pretty well. I think it really is a lot of it that a lot of the determining factor. If a player is in the clear on a breakaway, that really because it would have been that anyways, right? They would have an easy clear path to the goalie, and they get to get a shot at a shot. But if they didn't, they get robbed of that opportunity because a hooking or whatever it might be.
And if you throw your stick at the puck, that's an automatic penalty shot. So as a defenseman or a forward, if you can't catch the guy and you just whip your stick at the puck, whether you hit it or not, and if the player doesn't score on their attempt, it will be a penalty shot awarded for throwing your stick.
Have we seen one? I'm pretty sure we've probably seen it where it's a penalty shot because a goalie decides to, whoops, I backed up.
I mean, it does. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. It does happen. I'm not going to throw my fellow tendies under the bus here. I mean, sometimes the net gets in the way, Robin. That's just how it is. Okay. Let's learn to accept that. And the net moves for a reason. Okay. Otherwise, they would drill it into the ice with giant 6-foot stakes. No, the net moves for a reason.
Yeah, of course. Any final thoughts before we close things off?
No, I just wanted to make sure we covered the penalty shots there. And folks, if you do have questions on this, if we didn't explain anything clearly, please let us know in the comments. Or Robin's going to give you our Twitter handles here and everything, and you can reach out to us. There is a lot of nuance to it, and we are happy to jump into it with you online.
Also, if you guys want to be, want anything you want us to touch on, let us know too. Let's say if there's something specifically that you want, like a little episode on, a mini episode, whatever it might be, we'd be more than happy to dive into those, with you, because hockey's a fun sport, and if you don't understand it, I know I've been on that side where for a while at first I didn't understand it. It was frustrating until I finally did. I grew to love it, and here I am now talking to you guys about hockey. It's a great time. I kind of hope the same thing for all you guys. So again, if there's anything you guys want to know, just let us know. Anyways, that's it for today's episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you've yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free, on Amazon Music. Don't forget to be a part of our text club. Once again, you can send a text to 801-760-9033. That's 801-760-9033 to get started. Or click in the link in the description. I'll have the link in our available on our YouTube and all the platforms you guys are listening on. You guys get started, put it in your info, and we will get you signed up for the Text Club for exclusive content, access to our mailbag, and more coming your way as we get closer to the 2024 NHL season for the Utah Hockey Club. We're on social media as well, X and Instagram and Threads at LO_NHL Utah. I am personally at Robyn_Leonio. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on Air. Thanks again, once again, for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you guys next time.